Restaurant workers depend to a great extent on tips. They don't get a full minimum wage, but a bill in Springfield would change that. WGLT's Charlie Schlenker reports.
It's a weekday lunch rush in a popular restaurant in Normal. The tables are full, the kitchen is busy, servers move smoothly around the room. It's a complicated dance. Gidget Schifeling has worked at many restaurants for years. Currently, she works at 2 in Bloomington, one very old, one very new.
It's not just us running around remembering, which table needs extra ranch and refills and, you just got triple sat. It's also support from back of house. It's support from your manager. It's support from your coworkers, and working together, making it look simple and easy. It's a big deal.
It's not a simple job. Yet servers earn variable pay, 60% of the minimum wage plus tips. There's a bill in the state legislature to bring that minimum up to what the rest of the workforce gets. Chicago's already passed such a measure. If it passes, workers would still get tips. The national organization One Fair Wage is one of the groups pushing for the change. Group President Sarojaya Raman says the tipping system in the U.S. has its roots in the years following the Civil War.
Sub-minimum wage for tipped workers comes from devaluing Black lives directly after emancipation.
Before emancipation, restaurant servers were white men, and tipping was not part of the American restaurant culture. In 1853, restaurant workers struck for better wages, and the restaurants started hiring white women for lower pay. After emancipation, Jaya Raman says the industry changed when African Americans began moving north, and restaurants hired them at zero wage, earning only tips. She says the system still puts people of color at a disadvantage.
Women of color earn anywhere from $5 to $8 less per hour than white men because of implicit bias in tipping.
Raising wages, of course, increases costs for restaurant owners and operators. Bob Dobsky owns Rob Dobbs in Bloomington. Dobsky says restaurant owners like to get wage costs at about 20 to 22% of volume. He estimates raising the minimum for servers would increase that percentage 3 or 4 points.
Being in business, restaurant owners are going to have to reflect that in the menu prices, and the consumer is going to probably wind up paying it if we have to go to this in Illinois. I don't think it's a good idea.
What if the restaurants chose to eat the increase?
If we did not adjust prices, we would not be able to make any money.
Abby Strader-Bosenberg owns Fort Jesse Cafe in Normal.
There's such tight margins as it is.
She says the initiative comes at a precarious time for restaurant operators. First, there was a pandemic shutdown, then carry-out only, then they could be partly open, there was a return to full service, then inflation hit, and some new government mandates. She says it's been one thing after another.
Well, now minimum wage is going to go up $1 every year until 2025. Okay, well, we're doing that now. And we're going to throw in paid time off for all employees. Sounds good. Probably how it should be. We're doing that now. And so it's just been...
Restaurant owners say it would not affect every restaurant the same way. Bob Dobsky says bigger restaurants that have more volume will absorb some of that, but he says the ones that have only 1 or 2 servers would suffer disproportionately. And at some point, increased prices will change consumer behavior. They will go out to eat less often. Abby Strader-Bosenberg says she's already seen changes in dining patterns.
I think that you would see businesses shift to the fast casual, the Chipotle, go up to the counter, order your food, go sit down. Because, what's the point in paying all of these people? If I have to raise my prices, people aren't going to come out as much. One Fair Wage says they studied restaurant prices in 7 states that have a standard minimum wage and those who don't, and they are the same. Sarojaya Raman says the Denny's menus in Fresno, California and Springfield, Illinois cost the same.
The CFO of Denny's in 2021 was caught red-handed telling shareholders on an analyst call, Denny's is growing faster in California than any other state in the U.S. Why? He said, because we pay our people 15 plus tips, and therefore, guess what? They bring their families to eat at Denny's.
One Fair Wage says business groups that represent smaller restaurants generally back the proposal, saying it would place chains and independents on a level playing field for wages and the ability to find people to hire. Restaurant owners say they do want workers to be compensated for their work, and Abby Strader-Bosenberg says that means paid fairly. Strader-Bosenberg says she sees both sides.
Tips are unreliable. You have slow days, you have busy days, but your rent's still the same amount of money, so that can be kind of stressful.
Raising the minimum would seemingly be a more stable wage. Servers like Gidget Schifeling, though, worry people will stop tipping.
My concern for my own bottom line would be it would shift to, well, you're getting $15 an hour. Why do I have to tip you at all? I feel like the people that are already a little bit, stingy with that.
And if tipping goes out of the culture, Schifeling says she would have no motivation to continue in a physically taxing job. One Fair Wage's Sarah J. O'Rahman says that wouldn't happen.
The states that have already done this have the same or higher tipping averages as Illinois. In fact, the most recent data from the last quarter shows that California has the highest tipping average of any state in the U.S.
Server Gidget Schifeling says a bump up in minimum wage would be nice, but perhaps not as significant as all that.
Calling that a living wage is a joke. I mean, that's not some magical number. If we want to talk about a living wage, it's going to be a lot higher than that.
Another reason One Fair Wage and other groups say an across-the-board minimum wage is a good thing is to improve working conditions. Sarah J. Rahman says the restaurant industry is rife with sexual harassment. She says workers live solely off tips and have to put up with bad behavior. Server Gidget Schifeling acknowledges sexual harassment is an issue. Patrons standing too close, grabbing shoulders, and such.
It happens. That is kind of one of the ugly underbelly things of service industry that happens a lot.
Schifeling says, though, she doubts that is a sufficient reason to pass the bill.
Because there's no guarantee. I think that stopping that sort of thing comes with more of education and management, places that may not back up their staff.
One Fair Wage says workers in states that have an across-the-board minimum wage report 1/2 the rate of sexual harassment of states that have the sub-minimum wage system, because if a worker is not completely dependent on tips, she can tell a harasser to buzz off. It's natural for people to worry about change, even if the claims of improvements are likely to come true. The Illinois Restaurant Association polled tipped workers in Illinois. 87% said they are happy with the way the system works right now. Gidget Schifeling is in that camp.
I like how it is, and if we start messing with it, I just feel like the fallout is going to hurt us in the end.
One Fair Wage says including tipped workers in a standard minimum wage is an idea to right historical and current wrongs whose time has come. I'm Charlie Schlenk.